Over to get trapped in the overwhelm of all the variety of marketing tactics out there to amplify your marketing message. And we're going to talk about stepping out of overwhelm today and going back to the basics and simplifying the approach that you're taking in your business. That's what we're tackling today on Amplify Your Marketing Message with me, your host, Campbell Rapin. Let's dive right in. I will tell you that having worked with businesses all around the world in almost every industry, and today, more often than not, with creatives, consultants, and service-based businesses looking to scale their business, we have bought into the wrong piece of advice. What advice is that, you might be wondering? Well, it's the advice that says you need to be doing all the things. And that expectation that you do all the things when you are just starting, whether you're transitioning from solopreneur to your first few hires, is why you feel so tired, exhausted, overwhelmed, and wondering, when does it get easier? Well, it gets easier the moment you decide not to do all the things. And to be fair, I'm talking to those early growth emerging entrepreneurs here in today's episode, because when you are a multi-million-dollar business and you have a large organization, your capacity and your capability to do more of the tactics simply exists from a resource point of view. But if you are not yet at that multi-million-dollar level, then we need to reset our expectations of what is humanly possible, because our goal is to do the things that we do well to create momentum and to serve. And here's the truth. We said it before on the show, but Business 101 says go to the market that is seeking a solution and is looking for an expert. Well, here's the truth about that. You will find an audience in almost every tactic out there. Yep, I just said that. So when you think I need to be on everything, that's not true. That might be a way to grow your audience, but to find an audience, that is not necessarily true. So I always talk about this, and my coach gave me this great piece of advice when I really started my business and continues to bring it up in conversation today. So this is a good nugget. Take it with you and run, which is pick your lane. You do not need to be on every tactic. And you do not need to be at every tactic from day one. That is the first thing I want you to know in today's episode. When you are deciding what lane to be in, you need to look at what brings you joy. Where do your skill sets lie? And what interests you to stay in that lane long term? Because all of our actions are like dominoes in the world of marketing. Marketing is about creating movement. The longer you have been in your business, creating the dominoes to fall, you will see momentum build in your business. And so that's why I say pick a lane and stay in it, because all of this compounds. And one of the reasons that particularly creatives or service-based businesses struggle to see client conversion rate is because they're flittering around with a multitude of tactics and they haven't picked a lane and stayed in it. And I know personally that this is sometimes a challenge. Sometimes we need the pep talk, which is why I work with a mentor, why she often says to me, what lane do you want to stay in? And does this lane fit the thing you're considering? And if not, really think about staying the course, because that analogy that you've seen of the graphic of the miner who's chipping away at the boulders, trying to hit that gold nugget, that big win. If he doesn't stay in the lane and he gives up and changes tactics, all of his effort beforehand is wasted. So picking a lane is really important. Staying the course is really important. Working with mentors who help remind you to stay the course is important, because the domino effect is real. The compound effect of your business is real. And if you truly want to see amplification in your business, staying in the movement is essential. And so this comes down to the question of what lane do you want to play in? And here's the simple way to figure this out. Because what you've heard on this show, as I bring in multiple guests in multiple different businesses, is when I ask the question to amplify what's working now, you don't hear the same answers. So that indicates hopefully to you, that there isn't just one way. There isn't just one lane out there. And the business gurus that are telling you there's only one way, do it my way, and you spent the money and you're getting a poor ROI because you're going, the way that worked for them isn't working for me, and you feel disappointed, disheartened, and disillusioned, is simply wrong business advice you bought into. And I wish that hadn't been your reality, but it's important you hear this today. There are lots of different tactics that will work. There are lots of different strategies for different businesses and different industries with different owners to see success. So first off, success is possible when you find your way. And that's why when I'm working with clients, I always say, let's find your way to make this work. Let's find your lane, and I will help you stay the course. Here is the easiest way to do it. We've all heard of the Pareto principle, which is 20% of your effort will create 80% of the returns. So here's the biggest way to step off the overwhelm train. Find your 20%. You're thinking, can it really be that simple, Christine? Well, if you've been around this show for a while, you know I believe in elegant simplicity. It is that simple. I will tell you, a couple of years ago in my business, when I was flirting with all kinds of different tactics, I was joining more and more mentorship programs, networking groups, communities. I was searching for all the things. And I was getting super busy until I took stock. And this was probably about March to May of last year. And it said, I'm super busy. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. What am I doing with my time? That might be an uncomfortable question. It certainly was an uncomfortable reality check and an essential one. I actually do it every quarter in my business to help me course correct. But I sat down and went, wow, I'm so busy doing the things that I'm not focused on the basics, which I know work in my business. What are the basics and how do I know they're working? I check the two measures which drive client conversion. How many people am I meeting that have interest in what I do and might need my services? That's building the audience of buyers. And number two, I'm thinking, when's the last time I made an offer about my services to be the guide to a person I really want to work with to help them achieve a result? And when I took stock that I was super busy doing all the things, I had completely forgotten to focus on those two. And I thought, well, I can't stay here because the reason my business is stalling from a new client growth perspective, my current clients were all winning, loving the work that we're doing, but I was looking for growth. I needed to go back to the basics. And then I said, okay, of all the things I'm doing, not focusing on buyers and offers, what's the 20% that creates high conversion? What's the right places to play that gets me into the room with buyers? What's the right tactics for me? What's my lane? What's the 20% that's working that I can say yes to and get back on track and avoid the overwhelm? Well, when I looked at my business, there were three key drivers that were doing the vast majority of movement. And they were the things that were places I played, strategies I executed that led to consistently high people saying yes when I made an offer. What were they for me? Chances are you can remember them because I've talked about them before. But to me personally, they were speaking, networking, and events. And we've talked about those are all three low-tech strategies that were my lane. Why? Because for me, they feel like play. I like to connect to people. I like to inspire, engage, and see humans doing awesome work. It feels rewarding to be in communities with other great thinkers doing great things, creating impact. And I recognized that when I'm in an experience, speaking, networking, and events, I was able to identify human to human the people I wanted to play with. Whether that was collaborative partners, whether that was somebody who I could identify was going to need support, and maybe I could be a guide on that path. It also was the way that people could figure out, was I their must hire? And so the moment I could distill this 20%, I started to declutter my life. I stopped going to certain events. I removed myself from certain communities which were not serving, even though they may have been fun, because I needed to take out the overwhelm, dial in that 20%, and say, that's my lane. And when I made that realization, as I said, last spring, Q2, which we've said before is the most dangerous quarter of the year, I said, this is my lane. And what did I do after I made the awareness? I declared it to my mentor. I declared it to my inner circle and said, guys, this is the thing that works in my business. Anytime I start to go off on a tangent to try a new tactic, remind me and question me to say, is that your lane? And it's not to say that your lane can't grow. As I said, if your business moves past the hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue, profitable growth, and you're moving and desiring to still scale, it's fine to expand your lane. But I go back and say, what platforms can I use to amplify the lanes I'm in? So, growth of the podcast, the growth of another opportunity to get involved in social media, which drives people to events I run. It is still very dialed in. And so if you're listening here on Amplify Your Marketing Message today, I want you to recognize that overwhelm and the need to be in all places is the worst piece of business advice you can buy into. And it is a mental shift to say, I don't need to play in all places. You can find yourself right there in the gap. Might feel like a bit of a free fall, but that's 100% okay, because you got to let go of things that are not working in your business to focus on the things that are. This is the simple path to accelerated growth. Say no to things that are not your lane. Get clear on the 20% that delivers your revenue and declare to somebody in the inner circle that can help you be accountable. It says, this is my lane. And once you do that, what's really important, as I said, is to stay there. And I mean in a good, positive, momentum building way, saying I'm focused on things that live and breathe, focused results. If the results are not there, you must tweak your strategy. But you don't change the destination. You're saying, this is what makes me feel fun in my business. This is the skill set I want to do. And I will tell you this because nobody's talking about it. And I'm going to just breathe life into you here. You do not need to build your business like anybody else. You have to choose your lane. You have to find the 20% that works for you. And when you're working with a mentor, such as myself, what's really important is you find a mentor that has a plethora of tactics they're familiar with and says to you, what are the tactics you want to use? How can I support you in a path in a lane that feels like your business? Because I will tell you this, one of the also reasons you feel overwhelmed in your business is because you're trying to live up to somebody else's storyline. It's exhausting. Stop it. I mean that kindly. Pick the lane and say, this is what actually feels like fun to me. And just because you're curious about somebody else's tactic doesn't mean that you have to go and be in that lane. You could admire from afar, cheer them on and say, that's interesting. I'm glad it works for you. This is what works for me. And I said, if you simply audit your time, you'll realize it's time to stop being busy and to get dialed in that 20%, stay the course, build momentum, and know what you stand for. So I hope that this has been helpful because so many people I know right now think the answer is another tactic. It's not the tactic that will create results. It is the strategy, the cohesiveness, and the game plan that you see. The destination is not negotiable. Set your path. Breathe it every day. Get better at that lane you chose, because knowing what works for you, building your craft, getting in front of more people, and knowing what you stand for is the ultimate accelerator in your business. I am your host, Christine Campbell Rapin. I want to invite you to download a free resource because when you are building your lane, it doesn't matter whether you want to be like me who does speaking, networking events, or whether you're someone who wants to be on other platforms in other ways and you want to be in a highly automated system. What's really important is you figure out what you want to say, who you want to say it to, and how you want to say it. And I have a free resource. It's going to be one that I invite you to grab down below. it's going to be a training that will help you figure out how to master your message, because messaging is key to creating movement. When you know what lane you're in, you know what works for you, get your amplification of your marketing message engine running. If you need some help, be back here. Be sure to subscribe to this episode. If you're curious and want to have a conversation, welcome. Let's do that. I invite you to book a call with me. Have an amazing week. We will see you all on our next episode.